Hello everyone, my name is Josh and this is Whimsical and Interesting Musings, and today I'm going to be focusing on a book. It's not particularly going to be just a review of one book of theirs, but I'm going to talk about the entirety of their work as a whole. And today I'm going to talk about the works of Ruth Rendell. And this author is quite simply a master of the psychological thriller. She is the master of the psychological thriller in Britain. She's a master of suspense. She was an incredible writer. She's won a lot of great awards over the years for her work, and I do feel like she deserves a little bit of recognition. And Ruth Rendell, all I have to say is that she is an absolute master of this genre. She knows exactly what she wants to do in terms of her stories, which is to do something that a lot of people might not feel that happy about, which is to sympathise with the psychopath. And usually that's a very big no-no thing in terms of literary circles, especially murder mystery and suspense genre type fiction. These are horrible people who do horrible things, and they deserve to be punished for their horrible and dreadful things. But what Ruth Rendell does, and I do kind of think when she says stuff like I do sympathise with the psychopath, it's not necessarily condoning what they do. It's more an examination of why they do these things. And the reason why I picked out this book is because it's the only book that I've been currently reading of Ruth Rendell's at the minute. So this was the only one I had to hand. But the opening line of this book goes as follows. And this is the opening line for A Judgement in Stone by Ruth Rendell. And this is a good opening line, so give it a listen. Inez Parchment killed the Coverdale family because she could not read or write. So that to me really kind of gives you, immediately you're hooked. I was immediately hooked on that particular opening line, were you? And so that's one of the big things that I really do love about Ruth Rendell, is she kind of really does this wonderful job of really kind of taking these situations where if this was framed in a different way, if this was framed in a mystery type way, a lot of the time when a character does something terrible like this, they'd often be depicted as the villain. But because she is someone who's from a much more lower class background and she couldn't read or write, you're wondering, why did she feel the urge to kill this family? Did she do it because she felt like she was being judged by them for not being literate? What was the reason? So immediately your mind is whirling with questions right off the bat. Why would she kill these people because she couldn't read or write? Why would she do that? So immediately invites a ton of different theories and different ideas about how this could have gone. And that's where the beauty of Ruth Rendell kind of starts to kick off. You're more or less treating this as a character study rather than an actual atypical murder mystery where you have a long list of suspects, you have a horrific crime, and you have to try to figure out who did it among these said suspects. And what I really love about Ruth Rendell, even though I love the works of Agatha Christie, like Murder on the Orient Express, and then There Were None, and Death on the Nile, to name a few, Agatha Christie is one of those novelists who kind of has a very specific brand that a lot of people kind of try to model after. And I feel like even though she's a wonderful novelist and she made an entire career, she has an entire legacy of novels, I feel like that kind of leaves other novelists like Ruth Rendell and other novelists who are trying to write in her sort of mould, where they're more character driven and they're more psychologically inquisitive, sort of alone in the dust, as it were. And I feel like this is me kind of saying, I think people should read more of Ruth Rendell's works. And I feel like, even though I feel like because there has been a bit of a resurgence of Stephen King adaptations, and I'm a huge Stephen King fan as well, I haven't reviewed any of his books. Maybe I should do that in the build up to my birthday, which is in 2 weeks' time. So I'm really happy to be announcing that on this channel. I thought maybe I should do more, reviews on authors that no one particularly has read before. And that's what I really wanted to do with this channel, is I wanted to talk about stuff that I like, but also other people might like as well. But then I also want to talk about stuff that I like that might not be as well regarded or might not be as popular as some other authors or other sorts of films or TV shows and things like that. So that's why I wanted to do this channel in the first place. So yeah, if anyone on Hollywood in Hollywood, or particularly part of Netflix, is watching this, I want you to do a television adaptation of A Judgement in Stone, because I feel like this is one of the books that, because it's one of her more popular books, I feel like it's immediately going to get the audience that it needs. But then, of course, telling it in a TV series type format will give you a lot of chances to really flesh out the characters and to really see a lot of things through their head, through their particular perspectives, through their mindset, through their mind's eye, as it were. So that, I think, is fantastic. But what I really love about Ruth Rendell is that she's able to really kind of tap into, first of all, she doesn't focus exclusively on the upper class like Agatha Christie might do, or like various other authors of the Golden Age period of Ian Marsh, Marjorie Allingham, and Agatha Christie, and what have you. You pretty much have... Sometimes she mostly writes about the working class, and she writes about the working class from all sorts of different backgrounds. You have people from, white British backgrounds, you have people from British Anglo-Indian backgrounds, you have all sorts of people from different backgrounds. You have gay characters, you have characters who are from different cultures and different ethnicities, you have different, obviously different genders. But yeah, you have all sorts of different characters. You have all sorts of different people from all sorts of different backgrounds, people with different ages, different generations. Sometimes you might have a character who's a teenager or in his early 20s, but then you might have characters who are in their middle age, like mid-30s or early 40s, or old age, like in their elderly years. And that's what's really wonderful, is she's able to really tap into all these different mindsets, and she's able to give all these different generational perspectives on what's going on. And it does feel very modern and very up to date. She does keep very much up to date with how technology is going, with how even with how slang and how people talk is very well updated in a lot of her books. And you do get the sense of that in novels like The Rottweiler, which is one of the more recent ones that I read that I absolutely just loved. And it's basically a serial killer story, but it's got a very large cast of characters. And a review for that book basically was saying, yeah, it's a goodish book, but there's way too many characters. This character's cast could have been cut down tremendously, and we could have gotten more of a motivation as to why this character did it, and why this character should be sympathetic, why the serial killer should be sympathetic. But I think that reviewer kind of... I don't agree with that reviewer when he said, you don't really get to see why this person did the things, or why, or you get a sense of sympathy for this person, this killer who did these terrible things to these women. You do, but I just think it doesn't excuse what he did at the same time. Yes, it's horrible, and yes, it's tragic what happened to him, but that doesn't give him an excuse to go around strangling women and leaving them in this very brutalized state. So yeah, he does show his motivation, but it doesn't really give you an urge to sympathise with him, as it were. So it's very much a complicated motivation, and you have to read the book in order to find out. But that's one of the reasons why I love Ruth Rendell's work, is that she's able to really kind of tap into these characters and really make you see things from their point of view. Yes, it's not always right, but you do kind of see where their mind works. And you really do. And what she does exceptionally well in a lot of her books is she does the unreliable narrator type trope to a T, because there's a lot of moments where characters will remember certain bits of information. There's a scene in The Rottweiler where a character says that the killer took a pair of earrings while he was here at the crime scene, while he was in the neighbourhood. He took a pair of earrings, or a pair of earrings has gone missing. Is it connected to the crime? And then it's revealed that he didn't take a pair of earrings. Someone else took a pair of earrings. So you really do get this sense of, was that person who took the pair of earrings, was that person connected to the killer? Maybe they're just making connections just for the sake of it, just because it's easier to look for connections and look for ideas. And I love that about Ruth Rendell's stories, is they really do give you the sense of you don't really quite know who to trust. And you are the detective in a lot of Ruth Rendell stories, especially her standalone suspense stories like A Judgement in Stone. You really do get that certain sense of community. You get a sense of, you're just coming in, you're the outsider coming into this large community, and you're trying to figure out who committed this crime and what was the reason why. And that's the key to a lot of her works, is you're kind of coming in and she's saying to you, I basically want you to look at these characters, look at how they think, look at how they feel, look at how they react to things. And you're meant to kind of decide for yourself who the killer is and how they're supposed to be the person that they are. And if you are correct in finding out who the killer is, then bravo to you. You've officially accomplished Psychology 101. And that's one of the things that I really do think is quite fascinating about a lot of her books, is that she's able to really get you into that headset. But yeah, Netflix, please make a television adaptation of A Judgement in Stone. It's a fantastic book. And I'd also like to recommend another book of hers called The Water is Lovely, or Water's Lovely. It's about two sisters who, when they were younger, in their teen years, they find their stepfather upstairs having drowned in the bath. And there were signs of struggles. There were signs of a struggle. There's bruising on his shoulders to indicate that, he was pushed or he was forced into the water. But none of them know who did it, which one of the sisters did it. Is the main character the killer, or is their sister the main character? Who killed this man? And that's one of the things that really is at the heart of... sorry, this video is quite dark. I do apologise. I'll switch on a light, actually. Yeah, I do think it's a fantastic setup. It's a fantastic setup for a story, and Ruth Rendell, in her mastery, is able to really make you feel and make you care for these characters. So I'd highly recommend The Water's Lovely. I'll also recommend The Rottweiler, just for how damn good it was and how much of a fantastic read it was and how funny it was and how I absolutely just enjoyed the ride from start to finish. It's a fantastic book. I'll also recommend A Judgement in Stone, even though I haven't finished it yet. And I think more people should check out the works of Ruth Rendell, and more people should be interested in the television arena of things, in adapting Ruth Rendell's work, because I do think she is an absolute master, and she made an entire career. She's made an entire genre, an entire subgenre of the psychological crime thriller genre with her books, with books like A Demon in My View, A Judgement in Stone, The Rottweiler, The 13 Steps Down, all these great stories, the Wexford novels, From Doom with Death, A New Lease on Death, Adam and Eve and Pinch Me. All these great stories are now in the public domain, and people can, read them and enjoy them. And I wish more people adapted her works, because this author needs a larger audience than she has, and I do feel like she's damn good at writing these stories, and I do feel like more people should be reading her work, and it's just fantastic. So I would highly recommend A Judgement in Stone, or any of her works, because she's just such a fantastic writer. And the reason why she's able to write such well-rounded characters is she worked in journalism before she became an author full-time, and you really do get that sense that she is a journalist through and through. A lot of her books are basically very well-observed pieces of fiction. A lot of her characters do feel very well-rounded just through their routines and their little obsessions. She's able to craft an entire world of characters and an entire array of emotions and interesting elements to her characters that very few authors would even think about. And I think that's something that really is a huge testament to her as a writer, and how she's able to create these very well-rounded individuals. So yes, I'd highly recommend the works of Ruth Rendell. And Netflix, if you're watching, please make a television adaptation of A Judgement in Stone. It's a fantastic book, and I do recommend people read it. And this has been Josh with Whimsical and Interesting Musings. I hope you're all having a very good day. I hope you're safe out there on this very rainy day. and I hope you enjoy the video. That's all for me. Bye bye for now. Take care.